This story revolves around a loser who is not only weak, but also utterly broke. Bullies love picking on him, and the rich chick he's in love with hates him like nothing else. She literally despises him for being economically invisible. But all that changes one day when some unknown virus starts turning people into flesh-eating zombies. In no time, the whole world becomes a post-apocalyptic playground where you gotta survive on your own. It doesn't matter how much money you had, it's just paper in this desolated world. And, as luck would have it, that same chick, Yena, who used to love tearing our poor guy down, now desperately wants to stick around him, just to make sure she survives. But before jumping further into the story, let's rewind to the beginning for better context. It's a usual summer morning. Inside one of the apartment rooms lives our protagonist, Minjun. Looks like bro had a blast the night before playing games, with his computer still on. He's currently sound asleep, though his peaceful sleep is soon interrupted by the shrill ringing of a phone alarm. Of course, like most of us, the sound of the alarm is as annoying as it gets. He forces himself to pick up the phone and shut the damn thing off. Since he has school to attend, he drags himself out of bed. When he walks into the kitchen, he sees a note from his mom on the fridge, telling him to fend for himself today because she's already off to work. Not long after, he dresses in his school uniform and steps out of his dimly lit apartment. While he's living in this cheap area, he can't help but stare at the luxury skyscraper across from him. Bro seems to envy the kids living up there, while he's stuck in the slums, rotting away in his miserable life. But complaining about life won't ease his struggles. So he starts walking toward his school. The school in question is Seonggun High School. It looks like life at school isn't much easier for him either. There are, of course, the classic bullies who just pick on him for no reason. They're having fun while Minjun's suffering on the floor. Leading the pack is Park Seongbin, 18 years old, second year, class 3. As Seongbin continues to mock our boy, a voice cuts through the air, making Seongbin stop in his tracks. It's some chick, along with her entourage of sidekicks. She's not impressed with Seongbin's childish crap. He is always bullying people who are weaker than him. Not that she likes Minjun either. She finds him just as pathetic. But she also thinks Seongbin's making the school look bad with his dumb antics. Her name is Han Yena, also 18 years old, and she's in class 2, section 3. Seongbin quickly starts acting all buddy-buddy with Minjun, as if they've been best friends forever. To him, Minjun is just the class mascot, so having some fun with him isn't such a big deal. Yena's point still stands. He's causing unnecessary chaos in the hallways, messing up the school's decorum. If Seongbin wants to play around, he can do it outside the school. Seongbin then points out how she is probably the one who hates Minjun the most, but now she's preaching about righteousness. Yena defends herself, reminding him that while she might find Minjun ugly, she doesn't hit him physically, unlike Seongbin. We learn that Yena and Minjun are classmates and have known each other since middle school, just like Minjun knows Seongbin. Moving on, Seongbin invites Yena to tag along because he's meeting some new guy today, but Yena flatly refuses, not forgetting what happened the last time she listened to him. Apparently the last time they hung out, it was at Minjun's semi-basement apartment. It was smelly, messy, and just screamed poor. So, no way she's going there again. The reason this princess has such high standards is that she lives in that high-end apartment complex our boy had been staring at earlier, the same building visible from his place. Her parents are a hospital director and a professional, meaning she was born with a golden spoon in her mouth. She's always posting new pictures on social media and has pretty much everyone in school as her fan. To top it off, she's always acing her classes, dominating not just in looks, but in academics as well. There are rumors that she'll be moving to the US next year to continue her studies. She sounds like the perfect person with literally no setbacks in her life. But she has one huge problem she can't seem to solve. She absolutely hates weak and broke guys. And guess who fits that description? Yep, it's Minjun. Let's take a quick trip down memory lane to understand where this all started. Back in 8th grade, when Minjun and Yena were in the same class, Bro mustered up the courage to talk to her, but she only responded with a tone dripping with disdain and annoyance. To her, he was just a smelly brat who followed her around like a mosquito, and she hated it. Even though their homes were in the same direction, she couldn't stand walking alongside him. She told him to take a different route so she wouldn't have to suffer through his smell. It was then that it became crystal clear to Minjun. This chick loathed him with every fiber of her being. And speaking of smells, he noticed that she always smelled nice. For him, it must be the fragrance of wealth. Under normal circumstances, after being humiliated and shut down, most people would start hating the person who did it. But Minjun's feelings towards her were unwavering. Bro was loyal to a fault. He always sat next to her, even though she constantly mocked and belittled him with her trash talk. Year after year, same school, same class, same one-sided crush. Even with her constant ridicule, he never gave up. At some point, he started to question himself. After all, only a crazy person would love a girl who ridicules them every chance she gets. But this has always been Minjun's life. Getting physically wrecked by Seongbin, emotionally tortured by Yena. Welcome to the life of a certified pathetic loser. Later, Minjun is hanging out with his two friends, and both of his friends are just talking about anime, being the otakus they are. The fat one, in particular, seems obsessed with anime, while the scrawny guy next to him, Bae Soonho, hasn't really been keeping up with the anime scene. Meanwhile, Minjun's just sitting there in silence, like a background NPC minding his own business. Let me introduce these two. The scrawny one is Bae Soonho, 18 years old, and the fat one is Byungjun, is also the same age. Soonho and Byungjun are in different classes than Minjun, but they're the only friends who actually share similar personalities with him. The only difference is that they are not the ones being bullied, unlike Minjun. And Bro is feeling seriously envious of them. The only explanation he can come up with is that they're just lucky, while he's the one who gets all the shit this world has to offer. His train of thought is interrupted when his friends ask if he's interested in going to a Lumina concert. If he's up for it, they'll get extra tickets. The model in the phone looks hot, but Minjun doesn't care about that stuff anymore. If he's being honest, he's lost his last bit of interest in these idols. Of course, his friends think he's missing out. Now that they think about it, they're starting to notice that Minjun's been looking like a walking corpse lately. As they walk out, they can't help but throw some colorful remarks about how Minjun's depressed for no apparent reason. In class, Minjun just wants the day to end so he can escape this miserable life. Then, he overhears Seongbin and his gang talking about some random guy who glared back at them when they tried to mess with him. The guy seemed intimidating, but the guys are sure that Seongbin could have easily drilled him into the ground. Apparently, this guy came all the way from North Korea to South Korea. They're making fun of him for abandoning his parents and running away to save his own skin. As they're talking, the guy they're mocking, Kang Hakchul, shows up right there and overhears them. And of course, he's not about to take their shit. Seongbin's ego gets bruised when Hakchul stares him down like he's nothing, so Seongbin grabs him by the collar. But that Sigma doesn't react to this aggressive move. He simply suggests Seongbin shouldn't speak trash about others without expecting consequences. Seongbin refuses to let go of his grip, but before things escalate into a full-blown mess, his lackeys step in to calm him down. Eventually, Seongbin lets Hakchul go, but not before threatening his life. While this is all going on, Minjun's just sitting in the background, thinking to himself when he'll finally be rid of this hellhole of a school. When school ends, Minjun walks home, his mind swirling with all sorts of thoughts. He's seriously considering quitting school altogether. It feels like his only option to escape this miserable life. He's set on it. No turning back now. That's when Seongbin and his goons cross his path. They're actually happy to see him. Seongbin wants some cigarettes and tells our boy to ask a lady over there to buy them from the convenience store. After all, they're underage and can't buy them themselves. Of course, Minjun knows this is just another way for Seongbin to bully him, and he's had enough. Instead of putting up with it, he just ignores them and keeps walking towards home. Seongbin's pissed that Minjun is ignoring him, so, as expected, he and his goons beat the shit out of Minjun and dump him in an abandoned construction site. Seongbin's holding a brick, which he used to slam into Minjun's head over and over again. They're hoping this beating will teach this shit ass how to obey, but Minjun's had enough. With his broken and defeated voice, he tells Seongbin to just kill him. He's lost the will to live. Dying seems like the only way out. For some reason, that response really gets under Seongbin's skin. He gets even angrier and hits the guy with a kick again. Before leaving, that bastard makes one final threat. If Minjun ever tries to kill himself and mentions them in his suicide note, he promises to find his mother and unalive her on the spot. With that, they leave Minjun alone in the construction site, broken and battered. Dawn's creeping over the horizon as Minjun makes his way home after all that. The only thought in his mind is that he just wants the world to end by tomorrow. But he knows that's not going to happen. So, his best option is to climb to the top of that luxury high-rise apartment complex he's been staring at and jump. It'll all be over in minutes. With that plan in mind, he starts heading to the complex, ready to end it all. This is when he crosses paths with Yena, the girl who despises him the most. She gets annoyed just by his presence and demands to know why he's wandering around this joint when it's not even his home. Seeing how banged up he is, she's sure he's not here to deliver anything. Instead, he looks like he's here to pull off some burglary. Of course, she ends up reminding him how pathetic he is. Well, this is exactly why he came. To end it all, once and for all. The girl, on the other hand, starts questioning his bruised-up face, wondering if someone beat him up. She's genuinely pissed that he never stands up for himself, and he just always takes the beatings like the damn dog he is. She goes on this whole rant for a while, and eventually, my guy just turns around and walks in the opposite direction of the apartment building. That entitled bitch keeps whining about how he's giving her the cold shoulder. But eventually, she gives up and decides she'll pick this conversation back up tomorrow. Later, Minjun gets back into his smelly and cramped apartment. To blow off some steam, he fires up his PC and throws on his headphones to dive into some video games. Thinking back on everything that just happened, he realizes that she wasn't even wrong. He really does deserve all the shit she gave him. That's also why he's not going back to school. Like never ever. Starting tomorrow, he's planning to get a job and help his mom out with the household expenses. Night rolls in and Minjun is still blasting through enemies in his FPS game, mowing down waves of zombies. Suddenly his friends in the live chat tell him they're done playing and heading off, which makes zero sense to Minjun. After all, it's only 10 p.m. Still got a good 2 hours before midnight. That's when his friends remind him about the urgent news regarding the breakout. The world outside is in chaos right now. And right on cue, Minjun hears commotion outside. He gets up and cautiously heads to the front door when someone starts knocking persistently. Before opening it, he checks the peephole. It looks like one of his upstairs neighbors, asking him to open the door with this shaky-ass voice. Hearing that, Minjun just assumes the dude is drunk again. But little does he know, that man isn't his drunk neighbor anymore. He makes the mistake of opening the gate. First thing he notices is blood all over the guy's body, with a massive wound torn across his belly. Even then, Minjun thinks the guy must have gotten seriously hurt and considers calling emergency services. But then the zombified man lets out this ungodly screech before lunging at Minjun. They both crash down, the zombie dude on top of him. Minjun finally kicks him off after realizing the guy's completely out of his mind. He scrambles back and locks the door. His heart's racing, breathing heavy, with his legs trembling like crazy. There's no way that Psycho was just his regular neighbor. He grabs his phone to call the cops, but nothing connects. That's when he notices all the emergency alerts on his screen. They're saying unknown attacks are happening in Seoul and other unspecified areas. Everyone's being told to stay inside for safety. Then he hears chaos outside, just beyond his basement apartment. He opens the window just enough to peek through. What he sees is straight up hell. People are literally tearing each other apart. He even sees his neighbor again, still out there, roaming the streets and causing mayhem. That's when he suddenly gets worried about his mom and tries calling her. But there seems to be no connection. The night deepens, and Minjun turns off the apartment lights and curls up in a corner under his blanket. He tries to connect to any network, but nothing happens. No signal, no updates. He turns on the TV to get some answers on this messed up situation. The news anchor talks about a string of brutal murders being committed by unidentified civilians across the country. The government is calling it an act of indiscriminate terrorism and says they're investigating the cause and whoever's responsible for it. But no real details are out yet. The anchor urges everyone to stay indoors. Lock the doors and lock the windows. Avoid all contact with the outside world. The next update comes out as well, which reveals that Busan has fallen too. Similar violent incidents are being reported not just in Seoul, Busan, and Incheon, but in smaller towns too. Police and military forces are being deployed, but the situation already seems out of control. Minjun feels completely hopeless, getting hit with bomb after bomb of terrifying news. He's so stunned that it feels like he must be dreaming, like some sick nightmare he can't wake up from. Because based on what he just heard, it sounds like the world has fallen to zombies. But that stuff only happens in games and movies, and it's too ridiculous to be real. And yet, everything he's seen so far all checks out. He wants answers, and sitting cooped up in this dimly lit apartment isn't going to get him anywhere. He decides to step outside in order to shut the building's front door as tightly as he can behind him. But before he opens it, he sneaks a look through the peephole, making sure there aren't any zombies lurking. With the coast clear, he cracks open the door and steps out. As he climbs the stairs to the ground floor, it's eerily quiet. When he reaches the building's main door, he peeks out and spots a zombie roaming the street. He shuts the door right away and locks every single bolt. His next mission is to check if there are any survivors upstairs. But with how dead silent everything is, it doesn't seem like anyone's up there. For now, he decides it's not worth the risk. He'll wait it out until morning. He's convinced the police or military will eventually show up and rescue them. He fires the TV back up, hoping for updates. But before anything meaningful comes on, the broadcast dies. With no choice, he lies down to try and get some sleep. But with all this shit going on, he can't seem to fall asleep. More than anything, there's this unsettling feeling crawling inside him. Just yesterday, he wanted to end his life because the world was so damn cruel. He even wished the whole world would just burn. And now, it feels like that wish came true. But that doesn't mean his life got any easier. In fact, now he's struggling just to stay alive. He does not even have to think too hard to realize that nothing has changed. It was hell before, and it's hell now. So all these zombies and this end-of-the-world stuff doesn't scare him. Because honestly, he's already as miserable as a person can get. The morning comes. The streets are littered and blocked with abandoned cars, and zombies are roaming everywhere. Minjun finally opens the main door and dares to peek outside. The air feels wrong. There's this thick metallic scent of blood hanging over everything. It's so overpowering that he slams the door shut and locks it all back up. Going out without any preparation would be straight up suicide. He heads into the kitchen, and luckily, he's stocked decently. There are 4 packs of ramen, 6 cup noodles, and some instant rice and uncooked rice too. Enough food to keep him from starving for about 2 weeks. He's got 3 bottles of water, and thankfully, the tap still works. Even the gas is running for now. If he manages his supplies right, he could probably last a month here, and that should be enough time for someone to find him. Perhaps a rescue squad might help him to get out eventually. For now, his main concern is his mother. Since he can't connect to the network, he has no way of verifying what happened to her. Right now, all he can do is hope that his mother is alive and well. He then suddenly recalls how there are 5 households living in this building. In one of them, there was a college guy who lived in the rooftop room. He remembers how that guy was a true playboy, bringing his girlfriend every Tuesday to have their little fun. Since yesterday was Tuesday, that means the couple must be stuck up there. Minjun musters up his courage and finally starts ascending to the floors above him. Along the way, he checks every apartment on each floor, but there doesn't seem to be anyone there. The only apartment left is that rooftop room. As he ascends, he hopes to find the couple alive and well. Oddly enough, the rooftop door is open. Once he reaches the roof, he notices that the room the college guy lived in is also open. So naturally, he walks inside. But what he sees there is something he wishes he hadn't seen. On the other side of the room, the girl is dead already, while that college guy has turned into one of the flesh-craving zombies. But thankfully, Minjun's eyes do not land over the body since it's over his blind spot. The only thing he sees in front of him is shit ton of blood, which is enough to make his feet falter. He quickly ditches his plan of exploring the apartment further, and when he quietly tries to retreat, he accidentally knocks over the plant pot, grabbing the zombie's attention. Hearing those snarly growling noises inside, Minjun starts dashing with the speed of a cheetah. But his clumsy steps cause him to trip. The zombie guy comes out of his room and pounces on our boy right away. Minjun cleverly uses the zombie's momentum against him. He simply ducks down, lets the zombie go over his head, and pushes the bastard, making him fall off the roof. The sight is enough to steal his breath away for a moment. He just falls to his knees with barely any strength in them. Without any further ado, he runs back down after locking the door behind him, then locks himself into his apartment. He still hasn't gotten over that life and death encounter with that monster. He still can't come to terms with the fact that the rooftop college guy, whom he had seen as his hope, is now one of the brainless undead. And what's more devastating to him is the fact that he literally pushed him down from the top floor, leading him to his death. But then again, he tries to convince himself that it wasn't his fault. What he did was just self-defense. It was the college guy who attacked him first. Another night arrives, and just like the last one, Minjun is forced to spend his time in this dark, inner basement apartment. Minjun just sits there quietly, the guilt of the college guy's death eating him from the inside out. He stands back up and heads outside to the streets, hoping to see that college guy again. In front of him is a zombie. When the zombie twirls around to face him, he notices the broken neck of the college guy hanging from its right shoulder. Seeing this, Minjun feels both relieved and scared. He's relieved that his senior is alive, but the part that makes him fearful is the fact that this boy in front of him is no longer human. He internally apologizes to his senior and shuts the door behind him. This encounter teaches him that these guys are nothing more than zombies now. The next day arrives, making it the third day since the apocalypse took place. He's prepared a dish in the hot pot by himself. Actually, he's trying to use up the food that requires extra cooking. He intends to rely on it as long as the gas lasts, so afterwards he can use the packaged food. There is one lingering thought stuck in his mind, which is that he shouldn't be wasting his time waiting for help to arrive. If the food runs out before that happens, he will be doomed. For once, he's relieved that the entire building right now is devoid of zombies. It was only that rooftop college guy, but he's already out of the building now. To attract the attention of rescue teams or any survivors, he thinks of lighting a fire on the rooftop. Furthermore, he's thinking of leaving this apartment building soon. He had already given up on his life a few days ago, so even if he dies outside, it doesn't matter anymore. Not to mention, he's survived 2 life-or-death encounters already, which only gave him the confidence to fight against these monsters if push comes to shove. Those zombie-like people don't scare him anymore. Suddenly, his phone begins to ring miraculously. It's actually his mother calling, so he doesn't waste a single second before answering. His concerned mother quickly asks about his well-being. He promptly assures her that he's staying inside his house alone for now and questions her about her whereabouts. She reveals that she met the military while evacuating the day before yesterday and is currently at the shelter in Seongnam. She reassures him not to worry about her and suggests he stay inside his home. She promises to request the rescue team to get him out of there. With just a little exchange, their communication ends with the phone losing signal again. Regardless, Minjun is glad to hear his mother's voice, which is a clear sign that she's alive. Out of the blue, he starts receiving messages. It's actually his 2 otaku friends. And since they're able to send text messages, that means they're still alive in their cribs. Seems like these guys are just too comfortable wherever they are, or else they wouldn't be cracking jokes in the middle of this mess. His 2 friends live closer to each other, so Minjun is sure they've helped each other in this predicament. Including his 2 boys, he's only been able to confirm his mother's survival. There's still one person left he wants to figure out if they're still alive. And that's of course Han Yena, that lady who always trash-talked him. Of all the people he knows, she lives the closest to his house. But Minjun's not sure if she'll ever come back to his place, given how much she disliked his place the last time she visited. We flash back to the past when Songbin is having fun, along with his lackeys in Minjun's crib. One of the guys has invited Yana over, and they joke about how she wasn't told that the place she's about to visit is Minjun's house, someone she despises the most. They're all joking around while Minjun is losing his mind, hearing that she's coming. Finally, she arrives, and when she sees this cramped place that looks like trash, she just stares at it. Literally, she's having second thoughts about crossing that boundary line and dragging her feet into this dirty and cheap place. Eventually, she decides to leave without even taking a single step inside. She finds the smell of cigarettes disgusting, the floor all sticky and musty. Furthermore, she's annoyed they didn't even bother telling her that the place she's visiting is Minjun's house. Poor Minjun was left in utter disbelief, seeing how disgusted she made him feel. At that time, what made him feel miserable wasn't having Park Songbin and his crew invading his house, but Han Yena's disgusted reaction upon seeing his place. In the present, as he sits on his toilet seat, he's really curious to find out if she's alive or not. But even if she has turned into a zombie, Minjun isn't that heartbroken. You see, Minjun's father is the hospital director, so he's banking on the idea that his father might know which virus caused this outbreak, making him one of the potential candidates to figure out the cure for this disease. But then again, he shouldn't be worrying more about her survival than his own. After all, being the rich brat she is, she might have already made it out alive. But then, a familiar voice calls out to him. He suddenly starts to feel a little troubled upon hearing the voice. The voice on the other side of the door continues to request him to open the door. He finally recognizes the voice. It's actually Han Yena outside of his apartment. Through the window, she's trying to call him out, making sure she's not being loud. Still, her voice finally exposes her to the zombies who start to rush towards her. Seeing those bastards rushing at her, she gets even more desperate and begins yelling at him to open the door. Finally, Minjun opens the door, takes her inside, and locks it back up. The woman is so terrified that she's literally sweating. No matter how big a breath she takes, it's still not enough to calm her down. The worried Minjun checks on the girl, asking if she's okay. But he's even more confused why she ended up here of all places. Without really explaining anything, she tugged his shirt and embraced him in sudden surprise, causing a baffling reaction from our boy. The dude is literally too stunned to speak as she keeps on pulling his shirt, before mustering the courage to ask what happened to her. Minjun inquires if she's alright. Yena pulls away before thanking him in full. It's the kindest she's been to him, and she even admits that without his help, she would have been zombie meat by now. Her unexpected words of gratitude really stun our boy here, causing a flustered reaction as he admits that he's happy seeing her safe and sound. Scouting her surroundings, Yena realizes that Minjun's the only one in his home. Our boy explains that his mom went out and hasn't returned for 3 days. But luckily he was able to get in touch with her and she seems to be doing alright. After all, she was evacuated by a military unit, so things couldn't go wrong for her. Hearing that, Yena is glad. Since they're talking about parents, he's curious what ended up becoming of Yena's family. The girl confesses that at least her father is doing alright hiding in a safe place. As for her mother, Yena shows a concerned side but immediately pulls back and states that her parents are doing well. She switches topics and asks for water. After all, she hasn't had any for a few days now. She also asks for a charger to get her phone back on track. Time swiftly passes by. But then we're introduced to a whole new problem. This girl is a water-devouring demon. She's exhausting Bro's entire rationing strategy with the way she's drinking water. Minjun is seriously concerned, because if the water supply ends up getting cut off, they're going to be doomed for life. At the same time, he understands her perspective. The girl just escaped a zombie raid just to get here. Minjun decides to ask if she came here directly from her home, because it doesn't make sense to end up hiding in his place. Yena actually reveals that she's been surviving on her own outside for days. The girl never even got the chance to get home, which comes as a shock to Minjun. She starts off by recalling the conversation they had 3 days ago. After that, she went outside to kill some time, and that's when hell broke loose. People were terrified, running away, panicking. Not knowing what was best for her, she also ran and ended up hiding in a stairwell nearby. After a long waiting period of hoping that someone would come out and rescuing her, no one came. Minjun is astonished that Yena stayed outside defenseless by herself for 3 full days. Luckily for her, there was an unlocked door by the stairwell. A small meeting room became her saving grace, but it couldn't offer her much. The most she could have was a water jug, and that's how she kept herself alive for the time she was there. But when it came to the 3rd day, Yena was fully exhausted and couldn't keep on. She had to find food and water for her own good, so she stepped outside, hoping to catch up to home and run into the police if she's lucky. Or so she thought. Because the only people she met were undead monsters chewing each other's flesh and mercilessly killing people. It was a horrifying reality, and her path to home was blocked. So she tried another way, sneaking in using the alleyway to get to her neighborhood, realizing that she'd been passing by Minjun's neighborhood as well. Unfortunately, even after using the alleyway, she found another path obstructed by zombies. There was no way she could pass through undetected, but she still mustered the courage to take the route. While running, she recalled that Minjun's place was nearby, and she vaguely remembered the location thanks to her previous visit. She was desperate for Minjun to be alive, since he safely went home 3 days ago. Not knowing what to call them, she skillfully evaded the undead until she was finally close to Minjun's place. And that's how she got here. Minjun is terribly surprised that she had the balls to go outside and make such bold decisions. But she's indebted to him. Glad to find out that he was home, or else she was gone for life. Yena gets up, exclaiming that she's feeling dirty and wants to take a shower if the water's alright. Catching a peek of her sweaty armpits, Minjun unintentionally becomes a creep by offering her a new set of clothes to wear. But Yena takes this offer the wrong way, and starts kicking the crap out of him for making such an inappropriate suggestion. Poor guy gets repeatedly called a loser while getting kicked, and he doesn't even know what he did wrong. Yena's tired and really wants to take a shower, but at least she's polite enough to ask him. Minjun stumbles over his words and allows her permission to help herself. He still doesn't know why he suffered her wrathful kicks just now. While she's busy showering, Minjun enters a state of contemplation. Before her arrival, he was planning to go outside and venture on his own. But now that she's stuck with him, he feels guilty for leaving her on her own and prioritizing his own needs. At the same time, if they stayed here, they wouldn't have infinite resources. The food he stashed is only enough for one person for a month. Their resources are automatically cut in half now. The situation is really grim and forces him to be desperate. But also Bro is starstruck that the Han Yena of the high class is actually willingly taking a shower at his place. It's just as ridiculous as the apocalypse. Recalling their previous interactions at their school, he remembered how she was so cold that she didn't even bother making eye contact with the guy. He was merely an insect and an eyesore to her. Minjun is startled when she requests a set of clothes from him, as she's been wearing the same outfit for 3 days. Hurtling to fulfill her request, the dude goes around looking for clothes, asking what kind of clothes she'd like to wear. Yena doesn't really care about maintaining her fashion sense in the middle of a damn apocalypse, so she's fine with whatever. Also, she casually calls him a short king in the middle of this. Bro is catching strays for no reason. As Minjun is lending his clothes, he's a bit embarrassed. Yena immediately finds the smell disgusting and requests something else to wear. But unfortunately, all of his clothes smell the same, so it won't make a difference. Having worn her new outfit, Yena is extremely put off by the noticeable, unbearable smell. But she's hoping to deal with the suffering until her clothes dry off. She advises him to spray them properly, and thinks that the rumors about men being unhygienic are true when they're living on their own. It doesn't help that she's sensitive to smells. The girl laughs it off, considering the gravity of the situation they're in. Minjun doesn't know what to make of her reaction, and thinks she must have lost it if she's caring about smells in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Outside, the zombies are grunting and wreaking havoc. But inside, Minjun and Yena have just finished eating. She wants to know his thoughts about their plan, and thinks that someone will come to rescue them if they wait long enough. Minjun reveals that his own plan before her arrival was to move to a different location from tomorrow. This idea comes as ridiculous to Yena, who thinks it's stupid to abandon food and water when they've got plenty of it at his place. She's frightened because she nearly died on the way here, so she doesn't want to risk her life again by stepping outside. Minjun clarifies that he's not thinking about doing something like that now that they're sticking together. He also thinks they should take Yena's approach and wait for someone to rescue them in the meantime. But then, Yena is terrified to admit that they run the risk of running out of resources. Honestly, I don't even get her at this point. Does she want our boy to go outside on his own? Yena is confused and clearly not making sense, while Minjun explains that they could easily break into the houses of the upper floors and collect their resources to further increase their chances of survival. However, there's a chance they'll run into the infected zombies, since he knows that only the rooftop is safe from harm. And if that does end up happening, if they run out of food, there would be no other logical choice but to step outside. Yena is horrified and strongly rejects the idea, even though Minjun tries his best to explain that it's necessary for them to go in a situation like that. For now, she doesn't want to think about any dark possible futures like that. She also thinks he's only advocating going outside because he hasn't seen what the world looks like now. The zombies are rampant and they're mowing down any human nearby. Minjun argues that her getting to this neighborhood is an impressive accomplishment already, and if she traveled a kilometer full of zombies, then maybe their chances aren't so bad. Yena is shocked to see him actually come forward with his words, instead of being frightened to his core. Minjun counters that at the end of the day, they're facing zombies, and he's personally confirmed that a single bite can turn anyone into one. However, he doesn't really care much about his life, so he doesn't have that kind of fear if things go south. In his life, nothing would change even if he died. What a sad confession. Instead of comforting or consoling him, Yena isolates him and tells him that he's only thinking about his side of things. She doesn't want to become a zombie and wants to complete her education abroad, which is a hilarious confession because who's going to be teaching her? Professor Undead Walker? Minjun recalls that Yena impressively survived thanks to avoiding contact with the zombies, so maybe that's what they need to focus on. Even more, he adds that not all zombies have the ability to sprint in their direction. Some of them are grievously injured and walk slowly, while others can't even do that and just seem totally immobile. Also, even with their running speed considered, it's slower than a regular person. And that means they've got an excellent chance of at least outrunning the zombies. To give her an example, Minjun brings up the game of tag. He thinks it is easy to think of it like they were playing the game, and it may add to the excitement factor instead of fear. Yena looks at him with the most dead eyes, unable to believe that this man is casually suggesting a zombie apocalypse, a giant game of tag. They stop messing around with Yena confessing that she's done for the day and wants to sleep. She's been sleepless for days after all. Minjun decides to find them a bunch of blankets and casually sets up their beds together. Yena is suspicious of his scheme and orders him to sleep near the bathroom. Bro is not having it. He reminds her that it's his place, and he doesn't want to sleep near the bathroom door. Seeing as she can't fight back, Yena agrees and realizes she's in a stranger's home. She agrees to sleep near that spot instead. Her words get even more ridiculous as she casually remarks she's going to sleep outside on the stairwell. Minjun is having issues understanding her and tries to lure her back in, but Yena reminds him that it's his place, so he gets to sleep comfortably. Minjun emphasizes that he doesn't want her to go outside. Yena laughs and finds it hilarious that he took the bait from a single joke. She's okay with sleeping in the kitchen. They go on back and forth, and eventually our boy loses the petty argument and ends up sleeping near the bathroom door anyway. He's still grateful to be under a safe shelter because that matters the most of all. And though he appreciates Yena's presence, he also thinks she yaps a lot, which is funny. The night continues with zombies grumbling outside. Yena's too distraught and can't seem to sleep. She randomly calls him out, alarming him to get up. To his shock, Yena personally requests that he come sleep in her room because she's afraid of being alone by herself. I genuinely like this soft scene, showing the characters vulnerable even against their personalities. And well, that's what happens. Our boy gets to her room and sits in the corner hearing the zombies outside. She gets to sleep while he's out here caring for her. Yena explains that she'd heard this kind of terrifying sound many times while she was hiding outside. And yet, she's still yet to get used to it. It's simply terrifying beyond comparison. In her pitiful state, she confesses missing her mother. But our boy sits there waiting in silence, not saying a single word. Morning comes around, and the zombies are still loud as ever. Luckily, Yena ended up sleeping soundly, while Minjun is suffering because she's been knocked out for many hours. It's interesting to him how the same girl who was terrified of going to sleep is now sleeping like a log. It's 9 in the morning, causing Yena to wake up at last. She is refreshed but also surprised to see him putting on a jacket to go outside. Minjun explains that he wants to go and check up on the rooftop to see how things are holding up for them. Immediately, she's afraid that an infected zombie might pop out of nowhere and attack him on the rooftop, despite him having previously confirmed otherwise. But Minjun treats the matter casually and states that he'll avoid that fate with care. He tries inviting her along, only to be met with a roaring rejection, so she's supposed to stay here while he's on his way out. Minjun ventures into the stairwell and suddenly notices a crack in the glass that hadn't been there before. This is bad news because even glass has its limit, and it won't hold out for long. To his shock, Yena's voice comes from behind as she admits that the place stinks. He turns around surprised to see her following him out of nowhere. She has a bad feeling, but the couple decides to venture to the top. There, Minjun is utterly horrified to find the corpse of the rooftop guy's girlfriend. She's been slaughtered, and seeing her meet a grim fate like this, the young man offers a prayer. Yena had been waiting outside, and she's relieved that no one was inside. Minjun shares the tragic news and argues that it's best not for them to go inside. They discuss a strategy of lighting a fire in the hopes of a rescue helicopter catching them, but even that requires specific timing to be executed successfully. Yena recommends they create something in advance, something that will readily go off the second they hear a helicopter. Minjun counters that the fire won't be noticeable enough for the helicopter. She then wonders if they should try and scout other survivors from around the place. This idiot actually starts screaming to grab someone's attention, which is a terrible strategy as pointed out by Minjun as he warns her about the shattered glass door. And that's how the couple ended up having to survive on their own in the same place. While they're stuck and alone, the Yapper girl inquires about his MBTI type. In simple terms, it's basically a personality test consisting of 16 different personalities. You can take it online yourself. Anyway, a guy like him hasn't heard of it, and he strikes her as the type who doesn't use Instagram either. And even if he did, she's willing to bet her life he doesn't have anything more than 50 followers. The chick is out here grilling him for free. She wonders what he likes to enjoy in his life, and when he talks about gaming and how he enjoys the zombie game called Rage Z, she laughs at him. She even jokes that there's no longer a need to play a zombie game anymore, now that their entire world is already experiencing a real-life apocalypse. Back to the MBTI test, she thinks he would be an introvert in that category. After all, he's a shut-in who doesn't do anything social for the rest of his life. She asks if he's more of a spontaneous person or a planning type, which is yet another category on the MBTI scale. Minjun is out here thinking that this girl is a real chatterbox, because they could practically die tomorrow, and yet her yapping won't stop. Since he doesn't know anything about MBTI, he doesn't know what to make of her personality. The fact of the matter is, this is the same girl who didn't even bat an eye on him before the apocalypse. However, it remains unchanged that he's stuck with an old crush. She playfully kicks him and keeps on talking over and over, while the introvert Minjun wonders if this experience is a good thing. He'd never have imagined finding her in a way like this. The guy is completely zoned out, even though he never expected this outcome to come true. Realizing that he's lost in his thoughts, she roars for attention, calling his name and questioning why she's ignoring her. Minjun gets kicked and snaps out of it, realizing he was spacing out. This comes as a serious shock to Yena, who is offended by the thought of a guy spacing out in front of her glamour. And I mean, she is kind of right. A few days zoomed past just like that. She was casually kicking her feet while enjoying reading a comic. Yena asks if he's finished with the laundry since she's so hungry. The girl is basically a dead weight who's doing nothing but relying on him, to the point even Minjun is fed up and wants to escape on his own. He really doesn't want to be her slave who is even forced to do her laundry for her, which is also befitting of his personality type for being unable to express his emotions clearly. With electricity gone, he has to wash clothes by hand. Thankfully, the water is working fine, but the food is a different story. Having wrapped up everything, he tells her that he's off to leave. Yena reminds him not to be late. She wants him to return within 30 minutes, even threatening him if he dares to be late. Minjun is really at a loss here, but he does go outside. His current routine consists of patrolling the neighborhood at least once a day using safe paths. Having studied the behavior of the infected zombies, he's come to the conclusion that they behave just like the ones inside the games. It's a case similar to rabies. They only attack living humans and refuse to target the dead or the infected like their own. Also, he's noticed that their vision is stunted, and they can't notice you from far away. But this characteristic varies from zombie to zombie. Their hearing senses are extremely sensitive, so it's necessary for Minjun to tread lightly. Finally, they seem to despise the sunlight and aren't around as much in the day compared to the night. It's only because of that crucial detail that he thinks it is absolutely critical for them to avoid the nights. One more detail strikes out to him. The behavior of these infected zombies is quite similar to the game he plays. He wonders if he's the one being delusional in comparing the two situations together, or maybe it is just a funny coincidence. But if that is the case, if the zombies are really the same as the ones in the game, then Minjun fears the worst has yet to come, and soon, the world will surely come to its end. Back at his apartment building, Yena is bored out of her mind reading comics. She doesn't know what to do, and she's even more frustrated that Minjun is late again. Her annoyance grows after noticing that he's been denying her a lot lately, which she believes needs to be fixed soon. Wow, she really does treat him like a slave. To her astonishment, Yena hears the sound of a helicopter coming from outside. It may seem hopeful, but in the end, it's not like she can do anything worthwhile. The last time the helicopter came, these guys executed their strategy with the fire and even begged for help. But that strategy absolutely failed, and so they gave up on it entirely. More time passes, and now Yena is really starting to get nervous. She's anxious and biting her nails in anticipation of Minjun's arrival. An entire hour has passed since his departure, and he's not home yet, which is enough to cause her worry. She wonders if he got attacked or something. To mask her feeling of fear, she even promises to beat him up when he returns. She thinks this guy really must have some kind of attraction to getting hit and only then following orders. Also, Yena is fully convinced she's not going to allow him to leave from tomorrow morning onwards. But here's the funny thing. She ended up waiting until the sun went down, and bro still didn't return. Yena is worried sick and hoping that he's not dead somewhere outside. With the sun down, even more infected zombies will come hunting for him. She sulks in terror, almost accepting that he's no longer coming back home. The girl pleads for his return, terrified that she may be left all alone again. Fortunately for her, our boy had a heart of gold and came back. He wants to show her something, but he wasn't expecting her to look so devastated. Yena's eyes are tear-filled, and she's at the verge of crying. He did leave her for more than 3 hours after all. The first thing she does is punch him for being stupid. But he stops her to show her what he found. He recovered a leaflet from the helicopter earlier. He personally went out to collect all of them, which caused him to be so late. Yena is startled when she reads the leaflet, unable to comprehend what the hell is going on. It's a lockdown announcement to fully lock down Gangbuk region by the 10th of the month. And it's troublesome for them because that's where they are. With only 1 day left, there's just no way for them to survive. Minjun tells her to also read the back of the leaflet, which talks about the safety status of the region. It turns out that their neighborhood has a much lower infection rate compared to the rest of the region. There are some places that are safe, while others are classed as very dangerous. Basically, you're stupid if you venture in those neighborhoods type of thing. The worst part is that their religion is destined to reach the levels of dangerous as well. So their initial plan to stay put in one place is now working against them. Yena questions if they can even leave the region with the time they've got left. She's all about her questions right now, but while she's yapping about, Minjun is doing the heavy lifting with his brain for the both of them, and wonders how terrifying a very dangerous area must be. Though he doubts the words on the leaflet, he still can't do anything but accept the information he's being given. Knowing that places like Noan and Weijongbu are out of the question, they won't be able to escape north of Seoul. Minjun declares their objective. They must utilize every opportunity to get to the Han River. The fastest way to get there is through Shandong or Dongdaemun. But since those areas specifically seem dangerous, they'll have to trust their luck using the eastern area. Since the time is short, they have to make haste now. Minjun thinks they should target Yeongcheondong region, which is safe even if they detoured a bit. He also places faith in the military or the police keeping the safe zones intact, which means there's a better chance of survival. Yena is at a loss for words because of his excellent strategy. She really only took him for a loser up to this point, but turns out he can really plot his way out of a hole. Minjun is not in the mood to joke around and emphasizes the need to leave immediately. Yena is hesitant and doesn't seem to be prepared to leave. She wants to eat dinner after all. Even Minjun believes it would be smarter to leave early in the morning since the zombies get aggressive at night. Also, she's really skeptical of their chances to even escape into a safe zone. Yena begs to hold out for a couple more days until someone eventually rescues them. Her naive approach causes Minjun to be more assertive with her. He coldly reminds her that he's okay with leaving her here to die a miserable death in the basement. But he's going to be leaving tomorrow no matter what. The girl really doesn't have a response and realizes she has to concede. She accepts and turns to pack her stuff. Our boy gives her directions to a carrier bag she could use. The following day, the sun is out, and it's time for them to leave. Even though she doesn't want to, Yena has to. Also, Minjun questions if she's fine with leaving her dad's hospital behind. He remembers that her father works at the hospital after all, so he thinks she should at least check on him. In response, Yena shows a puzzled and worried look. She then fakes her expression and argues that they don't need to do that, because her parents already escaped Gangbuk safely. This is the truth that she couldn't tell him at first. The truth of her own parents leaving her behind. Minjun is at a loss for words, but he doesn't say anything. They go outside, maintaining a slow and sneaky stride. He's the one to lead the way and clear the paths for them. This way, they clear a street, even with zombies rampaging about. They keep on walking until they fully exit the neighborhood. Yena is actually shocked at how easy it has been for them to escape so far. She thinks her reaction from earlier caused her to be frightened beyond reality. Though that is the case, our boy still warns her to be careful against the dark places, since zombies get really active. While it's true that the zombies don't aggressively attack during sunlight, that doesn't mean the same for each and every zombie. They've been walking for a while, and she's surprised at how far the Yeongcheondong territory is. Minjun encourages her to keep on walking, even though she's complaining about not having a bike for these types of situations. Though our boy agrees with her ideas, he still reminds her that they can't use shared scooters because of the connection issues. But the really interesting part? He observes that all the bicycles are nowhere to be found. Yena suddenly requests a 5-minute break, as they've covered a bit of distance and she's tired. Her legs are hurting. Minjun thinks about it and teases her by suggesting going to a cafe for some coffee. His audacity is starting to get on her nerves ever since they left his place. She's shouting at him, so he tells her to calm down unless she wants to become dead meat. More time passes by and they're still not there yet. Minjun has been smartly dragging her along by telling her that they're almost there. He continued to walk and listen to her complaints. The dude is treating her like a child and doesn't even allow her to drink water. Both of them end up arriving in front of a barricade to separate the regions. Minjun explains that they finally arrived, and seeing a large barricade like this, he's more than certain that they're gonna be okay. Yena celebrates in the hopes of checking for survivors, but something is bothering him. The main character is really bummed out why there aren't any guards or onlookers around the barricade to make sure it is safe. At the same time, Yena hasn't seen or heard of an infected zombie yet, so the place seems okay so far. Suddenly she suggests that he hide for a bit so they can rest. They've been walking without a break after all, but Minjun doesn't allow that either. This man is training to become David Goggins. He also tells her to stop being so dramatic and simply follow along. His words are becoming colder, and Yena even curses him out for his audacity. Well, that's how they ended up having their little argument at the beginning. Tears are streaming down her face, while Minjun stares at her coldly. To his shock, she actually follows through and apologizes. But that's not why he was shocked just now. Our boy is terrified because zombies are sprinting towards them at full speed. Yena screams at the sight of the zombies, while he grabs her hand and makes a run for it at full speed. Luckily, they're faster than the zombies, but there's no explanation why a safe neighborhood is teeming with the undead. Minjun suggests running for now, and luckily spots a survivor just ahead. The man leads them all inside, and they quickly try to seal the gate shut. Yena is shocked that he's doing so much for her, all the while instructing Yena to just hide. With the help of the other guy, they were able to shut the place down. But unfortunately, the zombie broke through the barricade. With the barricade gone, he tells them to run for their lives. Seeing Yena being terrified, Minjun instructs her to run to the back. Both of them are bolting ahead with a zombie chasing after them. He helps her get up on top of some furniture. Unfortunately, they have to make a tall descent to get to the next gate. Luckily, the duo secures the landing, but Yena landed terribly and sprained her foot as a consequence. Bro is not having a good day. He's dealing with so much of her shenanigans just for the girl to fail on him again. The zombies are nearing the distance and about to reach them. At this moment, a decision must be made. The bullied boy remembers his past. He remembers Yena's words to him. She motivated him to fight back, to stand up against the ones who bullied him. And he also remembers that if he keeps on living this way, his life will be miserable. So in this moment, he chooses to be brave. He takes out a blade, ready to accept his death. And to Yena's shock, he stands to protect her. Even though death may be knocking at his door, young Minjun refuses to die a coward's death.